Welcome to the Crime Espresso Shot. We're your hosts, Ingrid Centurion and me, Carrie Pasquarello. And we're here bringing crime stories from around the world in hopes of bringing awareness to keep you and your family safe. And today we're talking about two shocking cases that have taken place in New York. And we're going to be unpacking the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson's assassination, and the Daniel Penny case. Disclaimer for sensitivity to victims, and we're not lawyers. So with that, Ingrid, welcome. Great to see you again.
Great to see you too, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone with the holidays coming up.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's get started with this case. The United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. This is a very interesting case. This was a set assassination. At the beginning, they were saying it was a professional. But as the information kind of trickled out, people are saying this was definitely not a professional. What do you hear?
Carrie, I think obviously it's not a professional when he took his first shot within 20 feet and he hit his target in the leg. I don't think that was planned. I think a professional shoots to kill, and at such a close distance, you need to be accurate.
Correct.
So right off the bat, I see that. And I know the gun is a very interesting gun. It's not normally used, right? And it had a suppressor on it. So that makes people think, oh, well, this might be a professional because he's using advanced equipment. But I look at it from, hey, if you're there to shoot someone in the public with everyone around, you want that to be quick, fast, and move on. But he did accomplish his mission. And I find it interesting when I looked at the timeline. So he shot him at 6:45 in the morning. The first shot wasn't the kill shot. He had to take two more shots. And then he moved on very calmly on his, whatever route, whether he was on an e-bike or whatever but he moved on and so calmly. So he accomplished his mission. And then interestingly, we find out at 7:12 that he's dead. So this person accomplished his mission in murdering this man in cold blood. And within 27 minutes, he accomplished that task. So that makes me just think so many types of things. How did he know he was going to be there that morning? This was an investor conference. It could be one of the investors who paid this guy to shoot him, with all the other interesting information about the healthcare agency being under investigation. And the CEO, Stephen Hemsley, had sold $102 million worth of shares within the last year. And our current CEO, Brian, who's no longer with us, he had sold 15 million. And to me, maybe there was an investor who lost a lot more and they were upset. That would be a little thought process. How would he know all this? And definitely he had some assistance. Right. I always think that our shooters have assistance.
Right. And it's interesting because even on the bullets that were left behind, was that little encrypted message about deny, depose, and defend. And I just wonder, did they just put that in to throw people off, to think that it might be a person who purchased this type of insurance and didn't get the coverage that they needed and maybe lost a family member and this was like revenge? Or could it even be something else? Could it be a scorned lover? Like, there's a lot of different places we can go with this. But what's interesting is it went from a professional assassin down to a really bad scenario because he left a lot of evidence behind. And one of the great things that I always talk about is cameras. Cameras are key in solving so many criminal activities. They had some really great technologies, even with facial recognition, to be able to find out that he came into New York from Georgia. So he came in from Atlanta. Now, how down in Atlanta, they have a really great camera system down there as well. So the police are going to be so busy pulling different camera feeds and trying to trace all of his steps. Do you have something to say about like the cameras?
Well, not just the cameras, but being so cocky, flirting with the girl at the hostel, and going to Starbucks and having a cup of coffee and drinking water, and just doing all these things that um, a professional would not do,
Right.
and leave so many clues behind.
Oh my
So
God.
I
Yeah.
think,
Isn't it funny that he stopped by Starbucks and then
yeah,
throws it away in the garbage can?
it's unbelievable. So we know that um, he had no emotion. So I don't think that he was personally connected to it. I think definitely someone, like I said, groomed him. I always think there's a lot of grooming going on. Young generation, obviously, he's between 18 and 29 years old. Remember, we always talk about the shooter demographics. And in this instant, I just find it, unbelievable and pretty arrogant on his part to, he had planned it. I hope they find him real soon. And I know we will find him,
Yeah.
and we're going to learn a lot more.
And the other piece of evidence that was left behind was the burner phone. He left a burner phone. So this really indicates to me there was somebody else in this scenario. Who was it? Oh, and another thing, when he left the scene of the crime, he had a big backpack on. And then when he emerged, he went back into Central Park. And when he emerged on the other side, I guess on an e-bike, his backpack was gone. Where's the backpack? Where
Well,
is
well, I heard that he had the battery to the e-bike in that backpack, but I don't know. Other people thought that he had a change of clothes in that backpack, but
right? But where
backpack's
the
gone.
backpack is gone. We got to find the backpack. The CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, was killed on Wednesday morning, and the NYPD has yet to name a suspect. The police commissioner stated that they believe the suspect has left Manhattan and released a photo. And we're trying to get that photo out everywhere. Surveillance tracked the shooter from the crime scene to Central Park, where he abandoned a bicycle and then took a taxi to the Port Authority bus terminal at 178th Street. Investigators suspect that he boarded an interstate bus. A potential breakthrough, though, occurred when they found his backpack in Central Park during a drone search. So
Really?
investigators are examining it for fingerprints and DNA. And the police are urging the public health in locating this suspect. Ingrid, there's so much going on.
Oh, wow. All the clues. We finally found that backpack.
The
That is
back
excellent.
the backpack is found. Now
But
they're going to have to sift through the United States to find this guy. Where is he?
unbelievable. There's so many things. It's not like the movies, though. He could be anywhere right now. And
They're going
um,
to find him. It's just a matter of time. And of course, they're going to do all sorts of forensics on that cell phone to see what calls were made, where did they go? And then let's go back to the hostel that he stayed at when he first got to New York. And that one picture of him beaming with that smile. And
Now,
what I understand, I wanted to see his face. And so he pulled that down. And I guess maybe they were checking his license, which I heard was a fake ID as well. But I don't know if he was flirting with the person. I don't know if it was a woman or a man. I don't know if he was flirting, but that was a big smile.
yeah, he definitely was flirting with someone there. Like you said, we don't know if it was a woman or a man, but I read that she asked oh, let me see that cute smile or something like that. And that's when he pulled down the mask. But good point. Maybe she asked him to pull down the mask to look to make sure he was who he was,
Right.
for identification purposes.
Sure.
But
Oh my gosh. And it's just, once again, when we circle back to even the style of him shooting, You and I both have done an enormous amount of shooting, and the accuracy was just so off for being a professional. So,
Yes.
it's just one of those things that we have to look at the totality of all these little pieces of evidence, and we know we're going to find him. I just wonder if we're going to find him alive or dead. Because if you send out somebody to do a hit and they are so blatantly bad at their job, I wonder if somebody wants to take him out now so that he won't speak. What are your thoughts on that?
So we're going to find out. We're going to find out who hired him, or who communicated with him, or who his assistants were.
And
Maybe not this week, but I think that the NYPD is going to do a great job. And they work really hard on these cases, and we'll eventually find out. Because if this was so sloppy, then I'm sure connecting to him and finding out all these details will come.
sure. And one last thing is I feel bad. There's children out there that have lost their father. And here was a person, a CEO that was, from what I understand, earning about 10 million a year. Where was his security detail? It's one of those things that when you have a high visible job, you're getting threats on the job. At any rate, this is what I've heard, some threats coming in regarding his business and what he was doing, and people feeling that they weren't getting the services that they expected. And so when you have threats and you have a high value target, you would expect them to be traveling with a security detail, at least one security person. And not only that, we talk often about situational awareness, how important it is to know who's coming up behind you. I think going forward, we're going to see a lot more CEOs reaching out and making sure that their security detail is in place and they're doing the job that needs to be done, which is to keep people safe no matter where you are, around the corner or the world. And so with that, I just feel bad for him. He lost his life. He had been with this company for numerous years. He worked his way up. This is just unfortunate. And especially it's unfortunate when we hear people going on social media and cheering the death of a human being. I think this is so wrong, Ingrid, and it kind of shows me where our society is going, and we need to pull back and realize what's important in our life. How can we protect others? How can we work together? And how we need to stop this violence.
Well, Carrie, I went to the gun violence archive. We use that all the time when we give our presentations to share the shootings. There was a shooting. There were a lot of shootings today. There were shootings yesterday. There were shootings all around the country. And nobody gives attention to safety until something like this happens. You do the threat assessments when you're traveling. These CEOs, how many CEOs have died on vacation? And how many CEOs have no security awareness at all? And they really need to be vigilant. And now they will have more security detail with them. Maybe they'll get a threat assessment from you when they're traveling. And this is what we're doing today, is creating awareness.
Right. And
And
we always say we want to be proactive, prepared, and protected. This is the way we want to blaze our trail around the world. And there's so much more value added when we think about how we can be successful in all that we do by incorporating safety, identifying our safety gaps, and really putting the effort into staying safer and keeping our employees safe, our families safe. There's so much to it. And it seems that a lot more money is spent on recovery when it should be focused on prevention. And this is a perfect example. He should be with us today. And it's just heartbreaking for those children that lost a father. And we'll be following this story and we'll come back with some more details once we get them. So we have to move on to our next story. Here we go with the Daniel Penny story. And this case really bothers me to my core, Ingrid. We have so much violence in this world. And when somebody steps up to help others and to protect others, we need to elevate them and we need to celebrate them. And in this case specifically, I heard from people that were there when this ordeal happened on the subway. And they said, Daniel stepped up. He helped us. We were afraid and he did something. And I always say, see something, say something, do something. he did something. He was trying to keep a person who was threatening the group that were on this train. It's unfortunate that somebody lost his life, but I think Alvin Bragg brought this case and I just don't feel right with it. What about you? Maybe give some background to the case.
Well, this is a legal trial of Daniel Penny, a former Marine sergeant who is currently facing charges of second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide after he placed Jordan Neely, a homeless man, in a chokehold on New York City subway, resulting in Neely's death. Now, this gained significant attention due to the racial dynamics involved and the question of whether Penny's actions were justified, self-defense, or an excessive use of force.
He did what he did, with his training, and unfortunately, this death occurred, and it's a sad thing. But and especially in New York City, I'm originally from New Jersey, and I remember walking in New York City, and that bad things would happen, and people would just continue walking. Nobody steps in to help, and we have to get away from that. And this case is exactly that. We have to help each other as human beings. Uh, the shooting that just happened, he shot the CEO in cold blood and continued walking. No one stopped him. Of course, he had a gun on him. So the whole point is we need to value life, and we need to help each other as human beings. And that's what he did. And it's sad if he gets convicted. It's going to be a sad, I think it's going to be a sad situation for the people of New York City, because they have to come together in the event of an emergency, in the event to save someone's life. That's what I would like to see if something was happening to me walking down the street.
And I look at Alvin Bragg because he brought these charges, and it seems, and we've talked about him before. His policies seem to be pro-criminal and anti-victim, and this is just a perfect example of it. I feel so heartbroken that there was a death. But I feel heartbroken for the people that were on that train. When he got on, he made some comments that he was ready to die. He, knew he was probably going back to Rikers. All these comments and his mannerism made people afraid. And here we have somebody that stepped up and, we saw that waived his Miranda rights and he explained everything to the detectives because he was like an open book. He's like, I was just trying to help. And that's another really hard thing to swallow because he wanted to help the police. He was holding them until the police got there. And if you go back and you review what happened when the police got there, the person who was killed, he wasn't dead. He still had a pulse. And there was some issues about offering life-saving measures at that time. It was just an overall sad situation to have somebody that was also on some, I think some drugs, had some other health concerns that were happening, and he was in a heightened state. And all of these things added up, and I think were probably contributing factors. But I think Daniel, he didn't intend to hurt or kill him. He was just trying to manage him so he wouldn't hurt anybody else. And as a woman that's traveling around, if something started happening to me, I would hope that somebody would step in. We talk about the bystander intervention. We teach the bystander intervention. And if he's found guilty, this is going to be a very difficult situation for everybody involved. People will continue to step over other people who are injured or hurt and just get away and leave the scene, leaving victims to be more victimized. This
That's
is
why that's why we really need to discuss the legal and ethical issues in this case. And what does the law say about self-defense and the use of force in something like this?
right in the Good Samaritan law. Like, how does the Good Samaritan law work? How is Bragg using this to persecute somebody who really wanted to help?
The Good Samaritan laws are in place in all states to encourage people to help others in emergency medical situations where trained rescue personnel have not yet arrived. And these laws protect people from civil liability for injuries when they attempt to aid someone needing medical attention. A Good Samaritan law protects individuals from legal liability as long as they act in good faith and without gross negligence. But every state is different, and it's mostly related to medical emergencies. Some may include duty to aid versus duty to report. And duty to report is specific to those who witness a crime. And duty aid relates to both crimes and medical emergencies. But every state is different. And Minnesota, Louisiana, Rhode Island, and Vermont have failure to act laws, meaning that passerby or bystanders have a legal duty to offer emergency help. So, for example, in Minnesota, failing to provide reasonable assistance could result in a misdemeanor charge and a fine up to $300.
I think something for us all to think about, whether it's Good Samaritan law related to medical issues, self-defense law, stand your ground, or bystander intervention, our actions need to be grounded in doing the right thing to help others, not inflame and not to hurt. And we need to definitely research the laws in our area. There's so many different variations of each of these. And so we have to make sure that we're legally protected. But the goal is to help others. The goal is to try to make society better. And there's a lot that goes into this, but definitely checking your local laws goes a long way.
So I think we also need to look at moral responsibilities and legal responsibilities in this case, in reference to, like you say, just helping another fellow citizen. You have the moral obligation to help someone not lose their life or get involved somehow. And I'm not the expert in all the different legal cases, but I think this is going to really impact the, like you said, the future of just how can we help each other in a life threatening situation. Now, if he didn't pass away, and he would be the hero right now, right?
Right.
He helped everyone on the train and he prevented something from happening. But here, unfortunately, this happened, and now he could be going to jail for 15 years. I think the outcome of this case is going to really impact so many in America.
Right. And I guess there were two charges, the criminally neglect homicide, and then also the more serious charge was second-degree manslaughter. And like you said, that could carry a 15-year sentence for somebody stepping up, somebody trying to help others. And so it's sad. We saw a lot of protesters even down there saying that he was guilty. And that's another thing that I wish, you know, didn't happen. I wish we could sit back and just believe that the juries would come up with a decision either way, and then we could all accept it. But the problem is, if it's politicized, and if you have a DA that is more pro criminals than pro victim, then you come up with people having these negative inputs on both sides. And we're seeing that on social media and out on the streets, that people are protesting against the other ways, calling him a murderer.
Yeah, and we can what if all day long,
Yeah.
but what if, why was he the only one that did something? What if others helped hold him down and he passed, you know, and he still resulted? Would they also be being charged for manslaughter because they helped? He was the only person on that train that did something. Why didn't anybody else help him? That's a what if, right? In these cases, if two or more held him down, they would be in court right now as well. And these are all the things that are very controversial.
Yep.
Another what ifs that we can go into is he was white male. And what if he was black?
Yeah, would Alvin Bragg had brought the same type of charges? I'm not sure. I just don't know. But it's sad when we're looking at that because justice should be blind. We should be able to look at all the facts and then decide whether somebody intentionally did this or were they trying to help, and be able to look at things logically. And sometimes when we have these polarized political outlooks on things, we just can't get to the real truth and the honest truth. I think it would be a travesty if he ever ends up in jail for this, because once again, if we look back to some of the information that was brought before the jurors, which was the manner of death, and the woman who did the autopsy, she did the manner of death was based on the choke, and she would not change the manner of death after she gets the toxicology report. And if you're already setting yourself up for not being able to take all the information together and determine the cause of death, you've already prejudged. I think that's wrong. And that is one of the pieces of information that the juries are coming back to really debate. So why don't we talk a little bit about who was Jordan Neely? And I feel bad for anybody losing their life. And I just think that looking at him and where he was, we need to talk about mental health issues. How can we help people recover from, if it's substance abuse or any type of medical issues? We need to make sure that we can help those who are in need, and that they shouldn't have to get on a subway station to get the attention that he needs to, get the help that he was needing. Because I think when he announced to everybody he's going back to Rikers, is he going back to Rikers because he wants some type of shelter? He wants 3 meals a day. Sometimes people do that. So that's really unfortunate. We need to look at the health care part, the drugs, rest of the whole health care, mental health issues that are so important to our communities so that we can work together to help one another.
Exactly right.
And I know Daniel Penny, he was also part of the military. He was an upstanding citizen, and he was once again just trying to do the right thing. So I would love for anybody watching this to put a comment down. Tell us, was he a hero or was he vigilante? Like, let us know what your thoughts are, because I think this debate will continue. And we need to, really watch what happens in the next couple of hours and see if they come back with the decision, or will it be a hung jury? I'm not
Well,
sure.
I'm really rooting for our Marine. He made a decision to help others
Yeah.
on that subway train.
And I
And
think that's a moral responsibility that we should all have. If we see something happening, we want to call the police. We want to see if we can, disengage the situation. We want to make sure that we can do so safely. And unfortunately, in New York City, it's a tough place to do that. I wouldn't, it's hard. Who's going to stand up for the next victim? If Penny ends up in jail, who will ever stand up for a victim again?
exactly.
Exactly. Well, that's it for today. Oh, so we're finished with our Crime Espresso shot, and we're so thrilled that you joined us. Make sure that you subscribe and like, and we'll see you next time on our Crime Espresso shot.